Now, you knew I'd get here. I don't think this is last. Is this last? Maybe. Star Trek. A moribund franchise. We haven't had a Star Trek movie, except if you want to include that horrible, god-awful soda stick swill called Section 31, you can, but that was a TV movie. But wow, don't do that. So Star Trek, the last Star Trek movie did not make any money. As a matter of fact, all three of the bad robot Star Trek movies didn't make that much money. They cost a lot, and they didn't make as much money as they should have. Anyway, the box office is down, and the return on budget is way down because they haven't made a movie in 9 years. They can't seem to get... And by the way, whatever Star Trek movie is going to get made, they're in a Star Trek the Motion Picture situation in the sense that Star Trek the Motion Picture had the costs associated with the sunk costs that Star Trek Planet of the Titans, the first Star Trek movie that was being developed at Paramount, which never got made, they wanted Toshiro Mifune to play Klingon. How badass would that have been? That movie never got made, but they absconded with the design of the Discovery with that Ken Adam and Ralph McQuarrie's design. And then they ruined that design. They ruined the Discovery design. They took something that was perfectly good and they ruined it. Kind of like all of modern Star Trek. But anyway, so their priority at Skydance is to make a Star Trek movie. That's what they want to do. They want to get the guy that directed the USS Callister episodes of Black Mirror, Toby Haynes, I think, to direct, which would be fine. It's all about the script. But the problem is they still don't want to make a Star Trek movie. If you want to have a really fun time, and I said this, there's this girl called Bunny Tail Reacts. And I thought she was much younger, but I think she's like 39. And she went and reviewed every original series episode. And she also reviewed the movies. And I have to tell you, her reviews of the movies, because she goes into it not knowing anything about them, there's no preconceived notion. She's not some major Star Trek. She's become a major Star Trek fanatic. But you watch those and you realize, the way her last reviews for Star Trek 2, 3, Star Trek 2, 3, 4, and 6, her reviews when she's watching them made me tear up. Just her reactions. Star Trek is missing that. Star Trek is a goofy show. They need to bring, what they need to bring to Star Trek? They need to bring that great sense of humanity, camaraderie, but what they need to bring to Star Trek again is awe, wonder, romanticism, and intellect. That's what Star Trek needs. It is bereft of all that. And, when I say romanticism, it doesn't mean Spock's going to fuck 4 of his crewmates. That's not what we're looking for, you idiots. He would never do that. He's terribly out of character. Anyway, Star Trek is about to celebrate its 60th anniversary next year, yet the franchise, which last graced the big screen with 2016's Star Trek Beyond, has never gone this long between movies. I'm so sad they haven't done anything with it, says an industry veteran. If David Ellison is smart, this will be a priority. The abundance of Paramount Plus shows and the apparent box office ceiling for the franchise, its films have never grossed more than $500 million globally, have some wondering if Trek should remain a TV brand. No, it shouldn't remain a TV brand because you've had some great theatrical movies that did very well. They just weren't modern. Star Trek The Wrath of Khan cost like $11 million, made like $80 million. Good return on its investment. The problem is nobody knows how to make Star Trek anymore. It doesn't work. Nobody cares. It's a moribund franchise that's from a different time. And you don't need to reinvent it and make it like Star Wars. You need to reinvent Star Trek and make it into Star Trek. But nobody knows how to do that because the people that are working on the franchise never liked Star Trek in the first place. How can you have people that didn't like or don't understand Star Trek working on Star Trek unless, of course, there are people like Nicholas Meyer, who knew nothing about Star Trek at all, but he was classically educated, so he understood the archetypes. And he knew, it's Horatio Hornblower. I get it. Okay. As I've always said, go back to Paramount, Mission Impossible. I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm going to say it again. Eric Jedrinson, the co-writer of Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning, don't hold that against him. He was the supervising producer of HBO's Band of Brothers. He was hired by Donald DeLine back in the short-lived Donald DeLine era of Paramount. He wrote Star Trek: The Beginning, which took place 8 years after the end of Enterprise. Canonical, good. It's got your Starfleet Academy bent. I'm sure 1,000 times better than we're going to get in that whatever that TV show they've made is. And you've got new characters. Go make that movie and cap it at $100 million. Get somebody who really knows what they're doing. You make Star Trek the beginning, and basically, you know who should direct it? Chris McQuarrie should direct it. Jedrinson McQuarrie should rewrite Jedrinson's script. They didn't even know where they were going to go with it, but it deals with the outbreak of the Romulan War. It is very topical. Go do that. How many times have you developed Star Trek for 100,000? Stop wasting your money. Anyway, you've got it. You've already paid for it. And as Eric Jedrinson will tell you, what he wanted to do was the Odyssey and the Iliad. Go figure. You know, when I hear somebody talking about Star Trek and they wanted to do their version of the Odyssey and the Iliad with Star Trek, I'm like, I'm so in. That was back in 2005 and 6, dudes. And look what's happened to look what they did to my boy. Anyway, let's go on. One filmmaker points out that J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek reboot brought this Star Wars thrill that you couldn't get anywhere else, but that isn't the case anymore. Still, many are hopeful that a new filmmaker can set Trek back to warp speed. Says one top exec, someone's going to have a disruptive approach for it to be relevant again. You mean a disruptive approach? Here's a disruptive approach. Make it good. Make it thoughtful. Make it epic. A Star Trek movie should feel like fucking Interstellar. Or a Star Trek movie should feel like, well, you could do a Galaxy Quest version of it, I guess. But really, it should be thoughtful. It should be impactful. Star Trek should pack an emotional wallop. You know, it really should. Star Trek 2 is a low-budget movie. If you look at Star Trek 2, it's basically a bottle show. There's no exteriors in Star Trek 2. It's all sets. They hired Harve Bennett, and they made it like a TV show. Of course, TV shows are a lot more expensive now. And anyway, don't get me started. The domestic performance of the last Star Trek movie, Star Trek Beyond, was down 37.5%. Global performance was down 39%. And the budget improvement was 18.6%. And let's not forget, Star Trek at its core, one of the reasons that people can't make it work, especially in this day and age, is Star Trek is about constitutional America going into space. It's about American exceptionalism. Yes, it's multicultural, but it's multicultural as if the world accepted American democracy and our values and took those into space. That was something that was underlying in Star Trek. People today wouldn't like that, but part of that's why Star Trek was effective.